Okay, I'll do the intro here in a second, and then we'll get
All
started.
right.
Get my mic closer. I don't know how loud it is, but hello everyone. My name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are finally back with Withering Watchpile. I kind of deleted the live stream from last week immediately after upload because there was so many technical issues. The audio was all over the place, so sorry for those who were going to watch it like in the morning and not at midnight when it finally finished. But we decided on doing like a monsters attack or a monster mash creature feature. I'm at least stretching the definition quite a bit for this episode. But before we do that, let's welcome back Leon, aka Undeadnightmare24.
Thanks, Christian, for having me, man. It's always a blast to chat and talk about these bad B movies. Whatever we talk about, it's just a lot of fun. So thanks for having me back on the show, and I look forward to going over these movies.
And for those who don't notice, this is a video episode now. I finally have the internet, and so far there's no really big lag that I've noticed while we were talking before the episode. But yeah, this one's gonna be fun in a way that's not fun. At least on my titles, because 2 out of the 3 I have not controversial opinions, but I brought together a lot of the entire behind the scenes in, and I'm going to less talk about the movie but more kind of circumstances about my opinions on these movies, so, and how it prevents me from enjoying them. Although my second pick, because I guess we'll do the from least favorite to our favorites, just like we've been doing. I think that's a good little format. Gets better as we go along. A little bit more positive. So we don't end it with Saint Bernard. Just to shout out my least favorite movie. And I still have 2 copies of it because Severin doesn't know how to do site maintenance.
So yeah, I'm gonna go in the same direction you did, worst to best there, and pretty much talk about these two. I did go with some classics as well that I want to talk about. Pretty much all of my films are first time watches, except the last one, it was a revisit. No, the second one was a revisit. So
All of
it's
mine
been
were
many years.
rewatches. I tried not to. I said it last time during the live stream. I was like, I'm going to go all blind buys. And then I've been going through some box sets, trying to just get it done so I can get rid of them. And at least be able to say, I've seen all this director's work. I don't like him. I still don't like him. So I watched the movie and I was like, you know what? This kind of fits the theme. And the second one I watched a documentary on Shudder. Shudder is amazing. I've seen a lot of great stuff already in the 1 week that I've had it. And then the last one, I was like, I need to end it with a movie I think is perfect in order to balance out the negativity of the previous 2. So,
Yeah.
they're all rewatches. One of them I haven't seen. Both, actually, the first 2, my worst one and my second to last. Well, I guess number 2 spot. It's been like 5 or 6 years since I've seen them, so I thought it was, it's not like I was rewatching Tammy and the T-Rex, which I did this week, which I watched like regularly. It's not like that. It's like an actual. I have very different opinions than my first watch, so I think it warrants an excuse. But do you want to go first or me? Because I have probably a 30-minute segment on my first movie. So,
Maybe I should go first because mine's quick. It's gonna be a quick one, so
all right.
I'll start it off. So I'm gonna go down with the vinegar syndrome trope here, and we're gonna go with a newer release here. It's Creature from 1985, and it's directed by William Malone. He directed House on Haunted Hill remake '99, Fear.com from 2002, and this stars the controversial Klaus Kinski in this film. So this is definitely a alien ripoff to the bone. I mean, it has the face hugger, but it's on their neck, like on their ear. So
Oh.
you got the creature, which is just a B movie model of Alien. It's really, and the sets are even Alien, and the director pretty much admits that he ripped off Alien. He'll admit it in the thing, just saying he wanted. They told him to do that, so he did it. So it it's real B movie ish. You got Klaus Kinski, like I said. He's actually a good guy in this film. It's awkward, but he's perverted. He's grabbing women through this film, and he's just he has that scumbag. He just has to have it with him.
That's actually the actor doing that. That's not the character.
No, that's Klaus Kinski probably leaving the bar at 2 a.m. and then going to film. But yeah, it's you got some pretty good stuff in this. It's a lot of fun. It's one you just turn your brain off and enjoy. You got the girl from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. She's like the real tall girl, and she's actually the Sigourney Weaver ripoff in this film. She plays
wow.
like her to the Mac. And then you got like I thought the effects are solid. What separates this film is the gore and the practical effects, because you got like head explosions, you got face ripoffs, and then it's pretty cool when those face huggers take track of the guy. They turn into zombies. They're walking around like zombies. I thought that was real unique. And actually, you got the rubber suit guy too. The aliens in a rubber suit just walking through the freaking ship. It's laugh out loud stuff. And overall, I just thought it was solid. You just got some cheese. I mean, you pretty much have the alien and wrestling matches with the guys that are pretty much wrestling, and but like I said, the gore don't disappoint. You got like I said, head explosions. I thought it was a lot of fun, but overall, I'd give it like a 3.5 out of 5 on my rating. I would watch it again. It's a film you'd drink beers with your buddies and just watch and just laugh. It's that type of film. So.
Double feature it with the original Alien.
Yeah, you go from masterpiece to just cheese.
Yeah,
that kind of difference. But yeah, I was impressed with it. And you see Klaus Kinski, he's a zombie fight in the movie, so it's pretty cool.
I haven't seen the movie. I almost bought it during the Friday sale, or the Black Friday sale. And the thing that caught my attention, you haven't mentioned this yet, but Tom Savini did the special effects for the movie.
There you go.
So when you said it looks awesome, what year was it?
It was 1985.
That's literally 1 year after Day of the Dead, his best movie. So
yeah,
good to know that he still like has a job after that movie, because that movie's depressing.
When you see the guys like transform like brain with the face huggers, it takes control of them. They look like zombies, so you could see like a Day of the Dead kind of vibe to it. They're walking like zombies.
Do you have the missing jaw one, and the tongue is just like flapping? Like, that's the most disgusting zombie. It's the first minute.
Yeah, you have them missing their mouth, like peeled off, and then you have like one of them, his skin's just peeling off. He's walking and his skin's falling off, and it's Klaus Kinski. So it's,
oh my gosh.
Well a stuntman for him, but
I'm convinced now, because Extro 2, because I have a DVD pack of Extro 1 and 2, and the first one's a very underrated cult classic. Nobody knows about it. If you know it, you love it. Like, it's a really awesome movie. And the second one is a Alien ripoff. Same exact scenes, same exact performances and characters and everything. And it has really awful special effects. So at least this one looks great.
This one looks great on the effects. It's real B movie-ish, but the guns are ridiculous. Looks like they're just shooting like light. Like you'd get a toy gun from the store and shoot lights out of it. Kind of looks something like that. I was laughing out loud. I was like, oh man.
Because one of my favorite things about Alien is the lighting. And the issue with Extra 2 was that it was so dark. But in Alien, it's like, it's all well lit, but it's still like really dark light. So you have that feeling of, the dark is going to go boo, or whatever that saying is.
And this has dark scenes, but it's not that bad. It's a good transfer. Then it has the director's cut on the special features, but That's a 35 millimeter. It's a real grainy transfer.
Yeah.
But you get nudity too. There's some girls in the nude in this one. So
We didn't get that in Alien.
no,
Because the entire point is that they didn't look for... Like, Sigourney Weaver... I mean, her character wasn't supposed to be a woman, like, in the original script. She was just the best actor, and that's why they got her. And so, like, we didn't have, like, hot scenes of her naked and this, that, and the other. Because it was a dude. And in one of the movies I'm going to discuss, like, they weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for naked men in the 70s or... Yeah, 78, I think, when Alien came out. So...
yeah,
It's just like the Italian ripoffs of all these movies. They just shove a lot of nudity in. Because they know it's a boring movie, and we'll stay for that.
and the director in the supplements I did watch, he said that that the girl's the one that told him I need to get naked in the scene so we could sell it more. He's like, okay.
Well, hey, at least he's not some sleazy guy.
Yeah, he's not. He's like, okay, we can do that. So.
Because that's how House was, which is a totally different movie. I guess still kind of supernatural. But the main actress in that, who's on the wheelchair, she's actually like in her 30s. Like, they just put a really awful gray wig on her head and was like, okay, you're a grandmother now. Like, play the part. And there's a scene where she's nude and she has like the perfect body. And she was like, oh, I'll go nude, because one of the teenagers who was part of, I guess, that group of schoolgirls, they were all like 18, 19, so it wasn't Asia Argento. But some of them were nervous about being naked on screen, and it wasn't like a sex scene. There are no sex scenes in that movie. It's all, you know, them in the bathtub, them just sitting on the ground. And so that woman, in order to try and kind of inspire them and make them feel a bit more comfortable, she just did a nude scene and had everyone in the place like there, and she was like, it's just a human body, like, it's okay, you know, you're around safe people. And it sounds like a similar situation.
There's no Weinstein around or nothing like that.
Yeah. Nobuhiko Kobayashi was like sitting there just asking the actors, like, what do you want me to do in this scene? And like the old woman is like, I'll go nude, like, that's fine. He's like, okay, sure. And he shot it. He was like, wow, your body looks really fucking good, like, you are very beautiful. And she was like, oh, I know. Because she's a like really famous actress in like Japan. So
she wants that camera on her, so.
Yeah, she was like some big theater person. But we're doing the thing we do, which is get off topic. But
oh, that's pretty much all I got to say on that. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, time to go into my depressing one.
Oh, man.
I was gonna ask which, because I always ask like if it's bad, like recommend a better one, but I don't think there are any better Alien knockoffs.
No,
none that I have found.
It's got to be the best one I've seen. It's fun. It's just, you know, turn your brain off. Enjoy the ride, pretty much.
I just realized I never wrote down the year that my first movie came out, and I can't find it. Oh well. I know it's in the 70s. It was after a very specific movie everyone knows. So my first movie that I watched was one that is a part... I have a show and tell here. It's part of the Alfred Hitchcock Blu-ray Classics Essential Collection, which has Rear Window, Vertigo, which is like the biggest movie ever from him that I still haven't seen. One day I will watch it. North by Northwest, that one's pretty good. It's like a spy thriller. Psycho, that's the really famous one that I was hinting at. And then the final one, The Birds. That's the one I saw. He did it immediately after the movie Psycho. So it's still got that really thrilling story of, you know, we got our town of people. And before I go into controversial stuff, I'm just kind of describing the plot. But our main character, she's a blonde because everyone ever in a Hitchcock movie has to be blonde, or the woman at least, because he is a sleazy dirtbag. I hate Hitchcock. He is someone I don't respect at all. I love Rear Window. I love that movie a lot. I think Psycho is really good. People need to stop talking about that movie so people can actually experience the ending for the first time while watching the movie, and not through the millions of pop culture references about, the bathtub scene. I mean, our main character dies in the first 20 minutes in that movie. Like, that's shocking, especially in that time where you don't do that. You don't fucking kill John Wayne in the first 20 minutes. He stays alive and has all the plot armor. But The Birds is basically about a blonde female protagonist that Hitchcock is definitely trying to get with behind the scenes. And she goes to a bed store or something to try and buy a bed because she's stalking some guy who has a wife and family because he's hot. That's why she's following him. And so she fakes being a bed shop owner, and is like showing him around the store while like the attendant she was trying to get a bed from for her own use was like in the back looking for like food. And she's like, oh yeah, I work here, but she doesn't, and he knows. But they're just kind of shooting the shit, being romantic. And he's like, oh, like, I can't get the bed today, just deliver it to my house. And she finds his address and all this different stuff, and she goes to the island that he lives at. It's like a nice resort island. It's not like the Caribbean type of island. It's like in like Wisconsin, like off like a lake. It's like a lake house basically. That's just on a pretty small island and like a lake. But she goes there, meets his daughter, who became a famous actress. I don't know her, but it's one of her first roles. And she kind of becomes like the mother figure because the mother died or ran out on them when the daughter was born and was like, I'm not ready to be a mother. And so she kind of becomes the mother figure to the young daughter. She's like 9, maybe 10. And then birds start attacking everybody. We all know the movie. It has really groundbreaking special effects that they did a really fun supplement all about. That was probably my favorite supplement. I didn't watch it all because I don't want to have Alfred Hitchcock living rent-free in my mind because I hate him. But this movie, if you ignore everything that's going on behind the scenes, which I'll get into, it's a pretty good thriller. It looks pretty dated now, but this was the first movie to not use a blue screen, but used better green screens. It's more like a yellow screen is what they called it. They had light that was yellow, so it looked like the sun. And in reality, they're in here, like a studio, where they're just walking in front of the screen. And the background, it looks really flawless of them, like on a boat or whatever. And birds are flying down and attacking them. And they kind of show like the cameras and the lighting systems that they use, all the technical stuff. I don't know anything about that, but I like when they have diagrams and they say, okay, like here's the main subject. Like all this white here is like what the yellow screen is. And there's our main actor right here. And she's reacting, she's paddling the boat. And then what we do is we take that person and we just paste it onto the yellow screen. And on the yellow screen, we put like the background stuff. So we film a scene of us just pointing the camera towards a lake at the back of a boat, and it's like, it looks flawless is the point. Every movie before then, you could tell when they were using a blue screen because blue light is on them, and you're like, oh yeah, that's not real. I think the most famous one is Forbidden Planet, which is like a 1950s sci-fi. The only good 1950s sci-fi because no one's standing around talking the entire time. They used a lot of groundbreaking effects at the time for that movie, and this the Birds was like the next step after Forbidden Planet, is what I understand. I'm not familiar with camera techniques in terms of blue screens, green screens, and yellow screens. I just know of them since I watched the supplement. But to now get into the controversial stuff, the main woman is played by Tippi Hedren, who, if you don't know her career got absolutely sabotaged. Not after this movie, but after she did the movie Marnie, Marnie, which is another Hitchcock movie. That was her second movie. The Birds was his first movie ever. She was young. She was very beautiful. Hitchcock loves his blonde ladies. Well, not loves, because that usually means that he respects them and, all that. He didn't. She did this movie, and the entire time, she wrote a really long memoir about her entire life, I guess an autobiography. And he died, like, way before she died, because he's, like, 40 years older than her when he did the movie. When he died, everything came out about him, about how horrible he was and how shitty he was, and people to this day still think he's like this master of cinema. He's really great in editing and cinematography. I cannot deny that. I think Rear Window is his masterpiece. It is so good that I can't fault him. Like, I can't hate the movie because of him. All his other movies, maybe Psycho is the other one that I can't really hate. But in this supplements, they don't talk about it at all, because you can't really say something negative on an Alfred Hitchcock box set. You can't really say like how shitty he is. But she wrote that throughout the entire production, he was flirting with her, grabbing her, wow, all this different stuff. Asked her out on many dates. Would try and get her to come to his hotel room, and they weren't done with the movie yet. And so in Revenge, while shooting this movie, there's a scene towards the end. It's really famous. You can watch it. You see her getting injured on screen, where they were going to use like shitty clay pigeons to like attack her. And that day that they were going to film it, they replaced them all with live birds with talons and claws, and just threw them at her. The entire scene, wow, for like 6 hours or something. And you see her getting cut up. A bird went for her eye, and she almost lost her fucking eye because of the scene. And after that, she had an entire nervous breakdown, and they weren't done with the movie yet. And so she had to go to a doctor, and she talks about this. You can read it in her autobiography, and there are so many news articles about it. So this is real. This isn't me supposing. There's evidence. Cast members saw all of this. Cary Grant, who everyone loves, he's in North by Northwest. He's in Rear Window. He's great in that. He was there that day when they were on set, and he was like, holy fuck. Like, you are very brave for even staying on this production. But this was her first movie, and she was stuck in a 2-movie deal with Alfred Hitchcock. And this was the first one. And so after that, she went to the doctor, and Hitchcock would not let her take a break. He kept pestering her, sending people to her room to get her to come filming, and she is like freaking the fuck out, having a nervous breakdown. And he's like, you gotta come and shoot, like, we're almost done with the movie, like, don't fuck with me, all this stuff, because Alfred Hitchcock, he was literally at the top. You do not say no to Alfred Hitchcock around this time. And she did. And she had to go find a doctor to write her a note saying she will fucking die within the week if you make her do this, because she is so exhausted. You gave her PTSD and all this shit. And so a couple months went by after she finished the movie. She took like a week break and then kind of felt good enough to just kind of end the movie as little as they could, using whatever footage they had of her. And she went on to do the next movie that she was contractually obligated to do, which was Marnie. And in that movie, from the very beginning, he was very abusive towards her. And I haven't seen that movie, so I can't really speak much to that movie and what he was doing behind then, but she basically described it as just him grabbing her, just no apologies, no restraint, no hesitation, just grabbing her, just doing whatever he wanted. And when she finished that movie, he completely blacklisted her. Nobody would hire her for any project because he was at the top. He was like how Harvey Weinstein was like 3 years ago, where he was the main producer. He controlled a lot. The casting couch. This was around when Hitchcock was around. If you were a blonde in Hollywood, because he did work in Hollywood after working in Britain, after doing like 5 or 6 movies, came to Hollywood, became a big producer there. If you were blonde, you were going to be in a Hitchcock film. And none of them got away from him. All of them have stories. And they had to wait until like the 80s when he died, or the 70s, I believe. Whenever he died, there was nothing they could do until that happened. And so, I don't know if you've seen the movie Roy with Tippi Hedren. The main...
No, I haven't.
Okay. No. That movie's really famous because it's the most dangerous movie ever made. They found some weirdo, like a Tiger King type of guy, who had like hundreds of lions and tigers in like his Alabama house. Just his like 10-acre land. And she was so desperate for jobs that she became the lead for that movie, which is all about killer tigers and all this stuff. Like, it's basically a Night of the Living Dead, but replaces zombies with tigers and real life tigers. They were attacking her the entire movie. An elephant steps on her at one point, like a real fucking elephant this guy had. I don't know who this guy was or how they found him, but they made a movie for like $2, maybe $2, because they were doing it undercover. It just got released on Blu-ray like 2 or 3 years ago. But that movie's really famous because she had the exact same situations happen of animals attacking her, and you can see it on screen of her getting injured. And so, yeah. That's why I hate Hitchcock and why we should stop worshipping him. But I just realized I'm not done yet because I have other show and tell items. This is the comprehensive box set that I got right before I found out about his behavior. And I've watched a few of them. But there are more stories about his shittiness on this release on the Criterion of the 39 Steps, which is from 1935. It's one of his first movies. It's really good. It's a nice spy thriller. There's a supplement on here. Criterion is really good about calling out on people's shit. Every release that they have that was directed by Roman Polanski, for example, everyone knows how shitty he is. I don't think it's controversial to say that he needs to fucking go to jail. If you don't know, just look him up. You'll find it. He's not the topic. It's Hitchcock. In that supplement, they have a bunch of old people who used to work with Hitchcock sitting there and joking about the good old days, about working with Hitchcock and about how they were able to like have any woman they wanted. And Criterion just lays it out there. They're like, we don't agree with this, but here you go. Like all these stories that these people had about working with him. And there was one part that was really fucked up that I heard about for many years, which is that he had these pranks. They're not real pranks. The ones they talk about on this is that he would handcuff you to random fucking people and throw the key away, like into the sewer, to where you couldn't open the like high quality handcuffs. Like he just had handcuffs on him all the time, and he would just fucking strap your arm and strap it to a bicycle rack. You had to go wait for like the fire department to save you back in the 30s. And sometimes he would say, oh, here's a cookie or whatever. And you're like, oh, thank you. Like, I cooked this myself. And you're like, oh, thank you. And so you eat the cookie. Ends up it was laced with rat poison. And you went to the fucking hospital. And this was his pranks. Oh, my God. Like, all this different stuff. And the one that...
That's Hitchcock? That's Hitchcock you're talking about?
Yes. Alfred Hitchcock. God. The master of cinema. Oh, this fucker that I hate. There's a reason I hate him, and I'm trying to finish this box set. I just have Vertigo, But I'm gonna rewatch the other ones just so it's fresh in my mind better. But the thing that started off this entire hate for Hitchcock was an article that I read back in like 2015, 2016. I had just begun college. I was in a film class and we watched Rear Window, and my professor was kind of like, yeah, he's a shithead, but look at how awesome this movie is technically. Like, it's all filmed in one room, but you get to see all the different buildings. I don't know if you've seen that one, but I do heavily recommend that one.
No,
It's really fucking good. Like, it's legitimately like his best. But people say Psycho is, but Psycho is also like an hour longer than Rear Window. So that's
the only film I've seen is Psycho. I haven't seen. That's the only Hitchcock film I've seen.
And you probably knew everything that happened in that before you watched it, as everyone does. So that's kind of the thing. I'm like, okay, let's stop talking about that movie. Not just because Hitchcock sucks, but because like it's not fun for people to watch that movie because they know everything. Like, everybody knows it. But this article talked about how one of his interns like had recently come out and was like, hey, here's what he did to me. What he basically did was that he had an intern who was like fetching water or something. I don't know. I'm sure he had hundreds of interns doing very easy things that he could do himself because he was the master, so he didn't have to, wash his hands or, something tedious that us lowlies have to do. He had an intern handcuffed to a radiator, like for an apartment building they were filming at. And the intern was like, oh, haha, I've heard about his pranks. Oh, this is great. I'm a target of one of his pranks. I'm going to be well known because Hitchcock noticed me or whatever. And so he sat there for a few hours and people were coming by just handing him water. And, he threw away the key at this point, like instantly, just threw it away into the street or whatever, outside the window. And at one point, Hitchcock comes back after like 8 hours with like a really nice steak, like a steak dinner for this guy. And obviously, it's not just steak. There was fucking laxatives in this fucking steak. And he's handcuffed to the radiator. And he eats the steak and is like, wow, that was really good. Thank you, Alfred Hitchcock, master of cinema. And not 30 minutes later, he is shitting himself, locked to this radiator, and no one, like, people are trying to help him, but they can't. And Hitchcock is like, oh, haha, you fell for one of my pranks. And that was kind of when my hate for him began, when I read that story, and I was like, we need to move on, find someone new to call the master of cinema, because, oh my god, I hate this guy. Orson Welles did none of this. He made a lot less movies because he was hated by everybody in terms of the studio system. Could never find money, Orson Welles. But his movies are really fucking good. I would rate him a lot higher than Hitchcock. He died way too soon. They never gave him the opportunity to make all the movies he wanted to make. Peter Bogdanovich had to fucking house him for like 10 years until his death. Because Orson Welles just couldn't make any fucking money and was doing embarrassing wine commercials, which, if you see them without, like, knowing anything about Orson Welles' career, like, it's kind of goofy because he's just drunk off his mind from this wine that he's doing a commercial for, and he's like, I love this. This is great. And you're like, oh, Orson Welles, like, you're so goofy. But he died, like, 2 weeks after that because he just drank himself to death. Because nobody was giving him money to make movies. And he did fucking Citizen Kane. We got it as the best movie of all time. That was his first movie he made, I think. Maybe he
just came out on Criterion.
Yeah,
4K?
Yeah, on 4K. Yeah. I need to get that. But, like, that movie's awesome. Like, it really brought storytelling to another level, because before then they would just stick a camera in the corner and film. And it was like, okay, like, sure, it's fine. But what he did was that he made tunnels on the floor for Citizen Kane. And so for scenes where he was trying to portray the main character as big and looming and in control because he's the emperor of this newspaper company, the camera is really low, so he looms over you. Like, this really great visual stuff going on in that movie, and Hitchcock did the same. But the issue is that Orson Welles was there for the craft of the movie. In this supplement, where they were talking about his pranks, they were also talking about how right from the beginning, he was always needing 100% control on everything. Nobody can say no to him. And it was really rough for him for the first few movies because nobody knew him. And so by the time that he got to a point where, like, people stopped questioning that, it was all over. I mean, for everyone involved with him. He had falling outs with everybody. Like, I would be interested to look up interviews about him, like, shortly after his death. Or seeing the reactions of people after he died. Because for the Birds supplements, they brought back Tippi Hedren, talked about the movie, and she does not mention anything about all the shit she went through. She talks about how wonderful the experience was, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I know there's a producer behind the camera saying, don't you fucking say anything. You just did War. Okay, we'll make you go do another animal attack movie, and get you wounded again, because her ribs, I think, got broken during War. When the elephant stepped on her. So, like...
And that's how they trap them. They're desperate, so they take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Not right.
Because The Birds was her first movie ever. She was doing commercials. And there's a scene in the movie, it's in the intro of her character when she's walking into the bird shop. She gets whistled at, like, and she smiles and does all this. And in my head, I'm like, God, like, it's kind of amazing that people ever thought that was, like, okay to do, like catcalling. And they talked about why they did that scene in the supplements, and they were basically like, oh, it was a callback to a commercial she did, where she did the same thing, and they showed the commercial, and it was totally different. Like, it wasn't someone catcalling her, it was someone she was dating or something. And she was like, oh, here's a shampoo, or whatever she was advertising. So it wasn't like just a random guy catcalling her, and her turning, oh, ha ha ha, thank you, you know. It's like, everything around this movie is just so depressing. So, I don't think I have anything else. I'm gonna... Oh my god, this is the worst thing. So, she had a daughter for a couple years after she made the 2 movies, and she got the fuck out, and then had her entire career destroyed. Hitchcock somehow got in contact with her daughter, who was 6 years old at the time, and gave her a wax doll that was an exact replica of her mother, Tippi Hedren, and had it packaged with a coffin, and just gave it to her. Like, imagine... What? Yeah, I read that because... Man, that's sick. Yeah, I was reading, like, her interview with, kind of talking about the autobiography, and she was kind of giving, like, highlights. It's more kind of like the juiciest bits. And this is one of the bits she talked about. And she said that, like, that was the scariest fucking thing ever. Like, her 6-year-old daughter got an exact wax replica. Like, you've seen Wax Mask. It looks really fucking realistic. And she got, like, a figure of her mom dead in a coffin given to her directly from him. Like, he handed it to her physically. And was like, oh,
as an adult, I can imagine a 6-year-old getting that.
Yeah, I would be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I need an adult who I can trust around. And my final note is that I hate Hitchcock. That's the last. Immediately after I found that out and I wrote it down, I was like, I hate this guy so much.
That's interesting because I never knew all that. I haven't seen too many of his films, but everything you said there gives me a whole new light on him. Or should I say darkness? Towards him, because he's the Weinstein of back then, pretty much.
He was. And if I was to recommend any of his movies, it would be Rear Window. That one is legitimately great. 39 Steps is really interesting. It's a fun spy movie. But
I have the Rear Window on 4K. I got it like the 3-pack. It has Birds, Psycho, and Rear Window. But I've only seen Psycho, so I need to.
I say just watch the rest of those 3, and you got the greatest hits or whatever of his. Mm-hmm. I mean, this giant box set here has like 20 of his movies. And I got this like a month before I found out all of this shit, and I was like, I haven't watched many of these outside the ones I've already seen dozens of times. I mean,
Yeah, he also got me interested in seeing some Orson Welles films. I'm looking them up right
it's
now.
great. Magnificent Ambersons is really great. Chimes of Midnight is great. But like, none of these are open. Like these packs, it's DVDs. They just put it out on Blu-ray, which is the house from Psycho.
The
Which
big set.
yeah, I almost got it, and I was like, no. I know he makes no money nowadays, and his daughter just continues the myth that he's this great guy because she was on the supplements for this movie, but I don't know. I don't like him at all.
I've lost all respect for him just hearing you right there. That's disgusting, man.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Like, it's just like a pattern of filth, as I think is what I called it when I was talking about how Harvey Weinstein abused Asia Argento. And then 10 years later, she did the exact same thing. And it's like, we need to stop this pattern of filth. This is why I'm okay with people, ousting people for being shitty. Because nothing could be done with Hitchcock for 50 years that he was working. Because he was working since he was like 22, like in the 20s. I mean, there's silent films that he made.
I watched his show on TV back in the day, like black and white show.
Yeah.
You don't know what goes on behind, backstage and all that.
I always believe in the victims first until there's enough people to say, like, no, that's not what happened. Like, if there is hard evidence that these things were happening, like 40 people on this thing talking about his pranks in high detail and laughing about it, like, they were okay broadcasting that. Like, and this was a supplement from the 90s. Like, 30 years ago. Which just fucked me up for a moment. 30 years ago, 90s. Yeah, like, that was in the 90s. 80s, yeah. Yeah. Not to age everyone here, but... yeah, like... I would have loved to have seen, like, interviews and stuff. But I also haven't done any digging, because I don't want to give him any more attention than he deserves. Which is none.
No. He's like that evil genius you talk about. He's a genius, but then he's evil. It's two sides to him.
He's very evil.
For the victims, they'll be traumatized for the rest of their life if they're still alive. I don't know which ones are alive or not, but...
Tippi Hedren's still going. I mean, she was young when they made the Birds, and Birds was a later one. He did that after Psycho, and Psycho people think is old because it's black and white, but he done like 20 color movies by that point. He just chose it for black and white because the bathtub scene would have made it X-rated or whatever myth that is, where they say like it couldn't be released if they had it in color, so he just turned it that. And used, like, chocolate syrup, I think is the blood. Like, that's, like, the first thing people hear about. So he used chocolate syrup.
He could hide it with the black and white. He could hide it, so... Crazy.
Everyone talks about how easy it became to make that movie. And that movie was also the first movie of all time to show a toilet.
Oh, okay.
Like, that was a big deal. They had commercials about that when the movie was coming out on TV. They were like, and here's a toilet, and they flushed it, and people were like, oh my God. Like, it's kind of amazing, but I don't think he went in with that idea, I'm going to be the first person to show a toilet. It's just that the toilet was actually significant for the plot, so I think that's how he washes out the blood. Anthony Perkins is awesome in that movie. And he actually made all the sequels, and apparently they're really good, too.
Part 3 is my second favorite.
I haven't seen any outside of them, but I need to pick those up from Scream Factory, because they did all of them, I think. Except for the original, of course. But
there's a 3-pack you could get that I have. It's like $20 for all 3 films.
Oh my gosh, that's a good deal. Okay, I thought it was going to be like 50.
No, you get honestly, you get 4 films in the remake for like It's $30.
The remake is
remake's
what no one
horrible.
likes. Yeah,
Yeah,
Vince Vaughn. Nah,
it's the
stay in.
exact same as the original, but with bad acting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
yeah, that's my bit.
that
I
was
don't know what
interesting,
year
man.
it came out.
You took me to film 101 right there, man. I was just paying attention and
Writing
jotting it
notes
down.
down.
Yeah, he did what? Oh my god.
Oh my god, I need to write an essay about how shitty he is and spread the word.
Yeah,
Well, not everyone should do that. We need some
yeah.
positivity in this world, but not with him. Ugh.
I thought Weinstein was a low till I heard that story.
The
Those facts.
beasts with different vices. But I will say, it's funny with this box set. I got this by trading Driller Killer Steelbook for this to Will,
Nice.
who has been
He
on the
won.
channel. So
He won that one.
yeah, I was
Even though I
like,
do enjoy Driller Killer, but
I saw Driller Killer like 4 times in like a few months, just trying to get it, and I watched the supplements, didn't get it still. Like, because I bought it was really cheap. Like that was when Arrow was like first becoming like a pretty big label, and they did the Steelbook, and they were like, "This is super limited, and you can still buy it, and it's not out of print." So, I guess I got suckered in, but that was my first Arrow, and I got rid of it. So, the Steelbook looks awesome though, but I could
yeah, it
not.
does.
Like, I knew I was never gonna watch it again. And then I got a shitty American Horror Story, which is like ripping off of the TV show name because it's that shitty multi-movie pack that you find at like Walmart. I bought that for like $2 at a used DVD store, and then I didn't even look at the list of movies. I was like, oh, okay, 8 movie pack for like $2. Okay, I'll buy it, and I bought it. And I looked on the back and it said Driller Killer. I'm like, no, get out of here! It's like Driller Killer came back to my collection.
It missed you. It's like you're not getting away.
Yeah,
Not getting away from me.
I
Oh man.
yeah, I have issues with that movie that I think a couple of tweaks here and there would have made it much better. It's just boring is the issue. It's not like
It's
fucking
crazy.
trauma
It's not
where
for
you do
everyone.
surface level research and everything falls apart and you actively just get angry. That movie's just I I don't want to go too deep into it, but the big change I was really wanting was instead of him going after random homeless people and drilling their brains, it should have been the punk rock group downstairs that he should have been killing off one by one.
Yeah.
And as the movie went on, it'd be like, oh, we don't have a drummer anymore, so they just played the music without the drums. Oh, our guitarist died, so now it's just bass and the keyboard. Oh, our bassist died, now it's just a keyboard. Like,
Yeah, that would have
keyboard
been
player. Like, I was
been way
hoping for
more
that.
interesting.
Because they literally drive him to madness because he's like painting and they're like playing Misfits. Like punk metal. Like,
And he's going crazy up there. Like
yeah, I thought
Just
it would have been
flipped out.
awesome if he slowly killed them off. And he didn't. He just
Yeah.
targeted innocent
I hear
homeless
you. That'd have been a
people.
lot better. He took his frustrations out on the wrong people.
Yeah. But what's your next movie before we go into
Okay.
more more off topic?
Well, this is my second favorite. This is a revisit that I was talking about. We're gonna go into the Universal Monsters universe, and I'm going with a creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. And I watched this years ago. I kind of forgot it, so it was like kind of a revisit, but it was a revisit. First, I gotta say I have the Blu-ray box set of the Universal Monsters, and this transfer is flawless, man. I know there's a 4K out now, which I don't have, but
I don't know what that would
I,
look
I don't know.
like.
I don't know how much better you could get because this was like, I mean, you'd see chest hairs sticking out, man. That's how clear this picture was.
Out of the suit.
Yeah, when they're diving and stuff. I was like, oh my god. But this is it has a nice Amazon River setting. You got these pretty much scientists going to the Amazon River. They're pretty much researching all around there and looking for fossils and like what they do there. And there's a myth about the manfish, they call it, that lurks in there, and it's they end up pretty much getting to this tent site where these Native Americans are, and they're attacked by this creature that's just stomping there, and you go there and you just see like a hand sticking out, man. He brutally like attacked him and you see a hand sticking out. I was like, oh, this is pretty advanced practical effects for that time because people would probably be in shock seeing stuff like that. And
People passing out.
yeah, but you got the girl, of course, the pretty girl. You see it all the time in the films, which he's infatuated with. But the tension is you don't know if he wants to pretty much slice her up or keep her as a
It's like King
as a
Kong.
yeah, keep similar, very similar. And also you have the creature looks cool. It's iconic. Everyone knows the creature of the Black Lagoon, but it's the rubber suit. What really impressed me is the face because you see like the gills really breathing in and out. And
Ooh,
I
it's
just thought that was
articulated.
yeah, you could actually believe he's a fish. I mean, it's a mask and a suit, but they make it look authentic with the gills breathing in and out. And also you get a good feature like where you watch these films where they go hunting the creature, and I like that it's the Amazon River because I'm infatuated with that. I love that. There's so much terrifying stuff in that river, and you get it's pretty much I think the film Anaconda
I was
got a
just
lot
gonna
of
say that.
got inspiration from this film because you got sets. You know how the guy gets bit by a dangerous creature in there, and he has like the tape around him. Well, he'd have him attacked by this creature, and he's wearing tape around his face. They're illing to him inside the boat, and then you got the madman, the greedy guy, who's played by what's his name on Anaconda, man? Angelina Jolie's dad.
Oh, I don't know. I
I forgot his name.
I
He's
thought
the
we were gonna
villain.
talk
And
about that really shitty Cardona film, which is exactly the same. No, it's the Killer
yeah,
Crocodile movie. That's the exact same plot too, where the capitalist
man,
is
I
like tainting the river.
I just looked it up. It's John Voight, but he's an Anaconda. You got that same character in this one, like the madman that's obsessed with like, let's bring the creature in, money. But then he's like, let me kill it. I want to like torture it. He's that mad, greedy guy you always have in those type of films. But anyways, you have them hunting him. They're taking him down. You have pretty much your hero, the guy that goes in there. He's flawless. He'll jump in the water and go search for him. He has the harpoon hunting him down, all that. But it's really cool. The effects I really liked about this film. You get him lit on fire during the film, which I thought
Oh
was.
wow.
It actually looks like a person's on fire, just running. You could tell it was a stunt, or a stunt scene, but it looks real cool. And I just got a lot of Anaconda vibes out of this film. I saw the inspiration, and I'm sure they copied a lot from this one. And then you have the creature, you have the dramatic scene where King Kong like he kidnaps the girl and takes her, and then you have the guy to rescue her. But it's just a real good tell, and the scenes. I just love the scenes because I'm a sucker for that Amazon River type of stuff. But overall, I'll give this one a 4 out of 5. It's a classic, and that's one I could revisit. The only one I think that could top this film is the Frankenstein film, which I love, the original Universal Monsters Frankenstein. But this one's definitely a strong number 2 for me on that list.
I had a really funny image of when you said King Kong and the similarity. I had a funny image of the creature from the Black Lagoon on the Empire State Building swatting at the planes.
His gills
He,
going in and out.
he has like a water bottle so he doesn't drown or whatever. And
Yeah,
AO. I don't know, it just made me giggle.
yeah. It's for being an older film, it was advanced in its time, definitely. But I didn't get into too many supplements overall.
Yeah, I haven't seen
I
it, and I know nothing about it, so I need to get that box set. It's like out of print now. It's like really hard to find.
Yeah, and they're releasing them in like singles now, so you could get them
Yeah, but I want them
for cheaper.
together.
Yeah, I
Just-
jumped on that on birthday money, so
I think
that's
they
where I
did a
was able to pick
4K
it up.
release. I think of that whole box set
Oh well, I
recently.
missed out on that. I just picked up the Blu-ray, so I'm good with that. But yeah, overall, solid creature feature. I mean, I know why it's a classic, and it's shown a lot of love even to this day. I've seen people at comic cons, or I mean, not comic cons, but horror cons, dressed as this creature. There's a film too by Del Toro that he did that had a lot of homage to it. It was
Oh,
released a while back.
Shape of Water.
Yeah, that was like a creature and a woman having a love affair or something like that. It was
It's
different.
really good. Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's not out of print anymore. It's 23% off for 114 bucks for 30 movies. So it's like $3 a
yeah.
movie. So it's pretty good. I'm
You
gonna add
get
that to
sequels.
the list.
You get sequels and all that, so it's worth it. And then they intertwine like their universe. You'll have like Wolfman versus Dracula or stuff like that.
Ab- Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Invisible Man
Yeah,
meets the Mummy. Okay, this is
and
a
that's a
loaded release.
it is,
A
and that's a good price.
1931 Spanish version of Dracula. That sounds awesome.
I watched that. It's actually pretty good. Different actors and actresses.
13 expert feature commentaries. Jesus. Okay, yeah, that's worth $100. That's a
It is.
really good release.
I think I paid 130 for it, and then like $5 shipping. So that's a good price. You're saying right there.
Yeah, 114 is. I might have to go do that. Although I just did a big John Carpenter birthday sale. Not my birthday, but John Carpenter. I don't want to look up how old he is. Because
I
every
know.
year that passes by, like I just watched a documentary about H.P. Lovecraft, who is like someone who was very problematic in terms that he was super racist even back in the 20s. Like that's like everyone was racist back then, but everyone hated him in his day because of how racist. So you can imagine how awful he was. But he made
Yeah.
kind of Cthulhu and all that. And during the interview or the documentary, they had John Carpenter, they had Guillermo del Toro, and Stuart Gordon. And I was just so heartbroken every time Stuart Gordon came up because he died in his
Yeah,
60s
man.
in 2020.
That was
Like,
heartbreaking.
like I remember I was just like, holy fuck. And this documentary was made in 2008, so it was about 10 years before he died. I was like, fuck. And John Carpenter was on there, and he's looked like he's 80 years old for the last 30 years. And he's still
He always has
going.
a cigarette. He's always with a cigarette too. You're like, man,
Yeah.
he doesn't care.
He's the grandparent who lives to like 100, who smoked 5 packs a day and don't do anything, I guess.
Hmm. Him and Argento are still going. I know about the controversy, but Argento's one of the greats still that's still going.
Yeah, I mean, his controversial stuff is more on the level of Tarantino, where he just chokes his actresses on screen, like in Inglorious Bastards when not Scarlett Johansson, but the Romanoff character when she's getting choked by the Nazi guy. That's Quentin Tarantino's hands actually choking her until she passed out, like on camera. And they weren't supposed to do that. Like this doctor on site was like, "Don't do that. Like, if you pass out from getting choked, that's really fucking bad. You get brain damage." And luckily, nothing happened. But yeah,
Oh,
Dario Argento did exactly the same from what I've heard. I haven't read up too much on it because he is one of my favorites. And I mean, he's still being interviewed today on supplements, so he must not have been that bad compared to Asia Argento.
He's on Trauma. There's an interview on him with Trauma.
Yeah, that's what I wondered because on Wax Mask he was interviewed, like right before that was released, and that was what 2019, so way after Trauma, right during the Me Too movement. So he wasn't ousted. I mean,
Yeah.
so although I did not know that he married Daria Nicolodi and that Asia is both the daughters. And I was kind of like, huh, okay, that's how they're all connected. Because I was
She's
like,
a legend in the Jello genre, man.
yeah, I was like, wow, she's really good in Argento's movies. I wonder if they had any behind the scenes romance, like they were sneaking. No, they were actually married. Like, they weren't sneaking around. Yeah.
Carpenter and Deborah Hill were married for a while, too.
Yeah. But they're still together, I think. Daria Nicolodi and Argento.
Oh, well.
I think, I don't know.
And she passed away, huh? Daria Nicolodi passed away a while back, I think.
Oh, I need to look it up. But, I don't even want to look up how old Dario Argento is. I know he's in the 70s. Daria Niccolodi. I forgot how to spell her name. Yeah, she died last year. What the fuck?
Yeah, she just passed away recently.
Why did I not hear of this? Fuck. Well, that's depressing.
Yeah, that is depressing.
Oh my god, Argento is 81. Oh my god, I thought he was in 70s.
Man, it's just sad to see the legends get old, man.
Oh, he has another kid. Fiore.
Come on, get some child or offsprings, man. Let's have some young carpenters and young. Just like what's his name? Cronenberg has a son doing movies now. We need stuff like that.
Well, Dario Argento has another daughter by Fiore, and she did Phenomena, Card Player, and Demons. I don't know if she's done anything else.
Card Player I liked, but it's not for everyone. It's similar to Trauma, so I don't know if you'd enjoy that. It's not as weird, but it's a recent Argento film. A newer one, I should say.
Yeah, she's a costume designer. Okay. Maybe she's free of issues. But, anything else on Black Lagoon?
No, that's all I got right there.
Alright. Well, I can start my second one, which is another rewatch. And we both have seen this, I know, because we've talked about it before. But, I'm going to talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. It's a rewatch for the first time in like 5 or 6 years. I have the awesome release. I do want to see a Halloween level box set, or a Friday 13th box set. Kind of giant thing, but this has like 2 or 3 documentaries and commentary tracks per movie, except for Part 2. Because, have you seen it? I swear you've seen it.
Which one's that? The
Part 2 of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That was my favorite sequel for years, and then Dream Warriors passed it for me.
Number 3 I love a lot, so
yeah,
I'm happy to know that you love this movie, because I rewatched it, and I didn't hate it when I first saw it a couple years ago without knowing anything, but I was just kind of like, it's okay. Like, it's very homoerotic. I don't know if that's on purpose. If it's on purpose, great. Very bold. Because I finally watched the documentary all about Mark Patton, who is the actor who played the main, not antagonist, protagonist. And his name is Mark Patton. And the documentary is called Scream, Queen, in reference to him being a queen, because he is actually gay in real life. And the subtitle for the movie is My Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was made 2 years ago, so it's really new. But basically, when they made this movie, they made it the same year as the first one, and it was so fucking popular. Wes Craven was like, I'm not doing this. I think it was Wes Craven. Yes, okay, thank God. Whew. I almost lost my credibility there, but it was Wes Craven who did the original. I get him mixed up with Toby Hooper. Those two names I get mixed up all the time. But he made the first one. Everyone knows the first one. It's no longer my favorite. I recognize how awesome it is and how important it is, but I love 2 and 3 more. Just personally, all 3 of those are top 3. I love number 7. That's maybe number 4 of my favorite out of the 7 on this set. I haven't seen 5 and 6 in a very long time. They were the most boring movies. Number 6 I've heard is just awful. I still haven't seen that. I've heard that one's really awful.
It goes more comedic as they go on. It gets more that dry humor.
Yeah, I think number 3 had that perfect level. Yeah. But this documentary basically is all through the perspective of that main guy, who I don't want to talk too much about the documentary, but about kind of what I took away, because it's one of the best documentaries I've seen. is almost as good. Well, it's actually better than my previous favorite documentary, which is Best Worst Movie, which is all about Troll 2 and that weird movie and all the circumstances around that. And there's that really awesome moment in that movie where Claudio Bertolucci, whatever his name is, the director, he legitimately thought it was a great movie. And so when he got invited to America with all the cast, like when they were doing this documentary, to kind of bring back and do fan conventions and all this stuff and signings, because all these actors, they filmed the movie in a weekend and never thought about it again, nor the director. And they kind of noticed one day that, you know, the main guy in Troll 2, he's a dentist, and he's like the main guy who's being interviewed in that, and he's kind of like, yeah, you know, slowly everyone, you know, at my dentist office was like, hey, you're that guy from Troll 2. He's like, Troll 2? Like, what's that? He's like, oh, yeah, I did act in this movie. And they go through and this...
I didn't remember it.
Yeah. Like, that's how, like, little commitment, like, everybody but the director had in that movie. Except for, like, the weird inhabitants of the village that they were at filming. Like, that nobody would ever even heard of the town until they made the movie. They got some really weird people in that movie. But there's a great moment in that movie where they're having an interview with the cast. And the director's in the audience, and everyone is kind of joking about how bad it is. And he's like, this is not a bad movie. Like, this is a great movie. Like, we were very serious when we made the script, you know, when we filmed it, you know, this, that, and the other. It was not a comedy or anything. Like, why is everyone laughing while we're screening this movie? And it kind of hit him on camera as he's asking these questions to, you know, the guy with the camcorder for the documentary. And he's like, wait, like, people think it's so bad that it's funny. And he just has this moment of, like, he just leaves. Like, it just really hits him. And you see it on screen, and he, like, kind of disappears for, like, a week or so from the documentary. Not a week and one time, but kind of in the timeline of the documentary. And he comes back, and he starts, like, fighting with the cast and, like, all this stuff, and, like, walking up to people, like, at the theater who were, like, talking about the movie. It's like, oh, you like Troll 2? What do you like? And he's like, dude, it's just so funny, man. And he's just like, oh, my God. Oh, like, wiping his brow, like, because he's just, like, in denial that this movie is bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it's very inept in the filmmaking, but it works so well as, like, a so bad it's good. People always talk about how it's the worst movie.
Yeah, definition of it.
Yeah, like, people say it's the worst movie ever made, but no, it's not. There are so much worse movies out there. This one's just the most charismatic and earnest of them, that it comes through.
Watch Hobgoblins.
Oh, yeah? I haven't seen that one. Is that same director?
So bad, but it's entertaining. I don't know. It's just puppet creatures. You can tell they're on hands and everything. It's... Oh, man. It's so bad, but keeps you watching it. I don't know why.
Yeah, but there are moments like that throughout the Scream Queen documentary where the actor... So, I guess I need to talk about more of the timeline of the movie. Because they do kind of talk about the life of the actor. And they don't really reveal where he is until they finally have an interview with him. But basically, he didn't go to acting school. He was in a theater troupe or something. Because he liked acting. That was just kind of his hobby. He went to the local theater, did, you know, Shakespeare or whatever. And he applied to an agent and was like, I want to work and be an actor. And he's like, okay, like, your face is perfect for commercials. So he worked on commercials forever. And he finally got a role in his 20s, I guess, where he was going to be the main lead in the sequel to this hit film called Nightmare on Elm Street. And the script was already written before he even went on. They were just casting now. And so they were doing auditions, and they had a lot of interviews at this point of the documentary. They hadn't brought on the actor today in 2018 or whatever that they filmed this. And they were talking to like everybody in the cast. They got Robert Englund to come on for this documentary, and everybody is like, yeah, we knew that this movie was leaning on the gay side rather than the damsel in distress, or the Heather Langenkamp, I believe is the actress from the first one who plays Nancy. They were like, we knew this was a gay film. Like, we thought that was really bold. We thought it was really risky, which, we weren't surprised when it was handled, or not handled, but when it was reacted very poorly. Because, like, a week later, after the movie came out, AIDS became a thing. It became an epidemic, like, within weeks of that movie releasing. And suddenly, the actor, Mark Patton, talks about this later in the documentary, but he said during that time, his agent came to his apartment in New York City and just threw away anything that looked gay to the agent and was like, you are not allowed to look gay or anything, because he kind of knew, like, this actor was gay, but he wasn't out of the closet yet, because people fucking killed you if you were out of the closet back then. And even today, people are still killed just for being gay.
It was different times.
Yeah.
And you could tell. I always thought, because of his screams in the movie, I thought, because he screams really with that, like, feminine scream. I said,
yeah, and that is talked
though.
about. Yeah, that is talked about at length. And there's a lot of innuendo throughout this movie. I mean, the coach. I mean, there's a lot of things. But before I get into that, after that happened, of the agent coming to his apartment and throwing away, like, his entire wardrobe of clothes that he just had, and gave him, like, a polo, like a dark, like, polo, dark-colored polo, so he wouldn't look gay. And, like, weeks later, the AIDS pandemic, or I guess it happened after or before he came to the apartment, and he was like, you know what, fuck this, and just disappeared off the face of the earth. No one could find this actor. And it ends up, and the actor talks about this, is that his boyfriend at the time got AIDS. Like, this guy he was gonna marry whenever that became legal, but they were lifelong partners since, like, high school. And he died, and he was, like, getting really emotional, like, recounting this. This was 30 years ago that this movie was made. And so he just fucking disappeared and went to Mexico and just, like, lived a life of kind of luxury, as basically not faking his death, but just disappearing and becoming a whole new person, changed his name, everything. And during this time that he was disappeared until, like, 2014, 2015, when someone just found him in Mexico and was like, holy shit, like, I'm on vacation, like, how the fuck, you're still alive? Like, he talks about how he, like, someone just found him and was like, oh my god, you're alive, like, where have you been? Like, just some tourist found him. But
he was chasing chickens in Mexico.
Yeah,
with a Rambo band on.
Yeah.
No, I'm just messing around.
Yeah, but he talks about how during that time he just did not think about Nightmare on Elm Street. He had a horrible time after the movie was released. He said it was a really fun production to film and do all that, and the director was really nice, the writer was really nice, and he was just like, I need to leave. America is not safe enough for me as a gay man. So he left, and then the entire cast, they were told not to say that it was a gay film. And so, by the company, whoever produced this, Paramount, I think? New Line Cinema. So, that's kind of shocking, because New Line Cinema is pretty progressive. But I guess back then it didn't matter. But they were kind of like, yeah, this is not a gay movie. And the writer of the movie was like, no, I did not write it as a gay film. The actor brought that gayness. And this was like, he hadn't even come out of the closet. This was the first time anyone heard that he was actually gay. And so immediately the actor became a target, and that's kind of when he disappeared. Within the few weeks window when AIDS came, when the agent came to his apartment, all this stuff, and the director said that, and he just got the fuck out because everyone was targeting him and saying all this shit about him, and it was like in the 1990s and the 2000s when
that was a different era, man. There's more hate. Well, there's hate anyways, but I mean that was a sensitive time.
Especially with how scary it is that you could catch AIDS just for having sex, which like no STD was that like devastating. I mean, it completely takes away your immune system, so anything can kill you if you get it. And so in the 1990s and the 2000s, roughly, I can't remember the timeline. They didn't really explain it too much. But throughout this documentary, they have footage of screenings where a lot of gay people would come and watch the movie and celebrate the movie and kind of talk about how important it was to them to see someone like them being the main role in the movie, and how awesome it was, and this, that, and the other. And the director and writer started hearing about that, and they were like, yeah, we definitely made it as a gay film, this, that, and the other. And they were like, honey, first of all, no, you didn't. You said for 20 years that it's not a gay film. So what the fuck? Like, what are you saying now? And that became a thing that really motivated the main actor to come back. When he was hearing them trying to, come across as progressive and bold and, all this stuff, because they were embarrassed and put all of the blame of the failure of the movie and the homoerotic themes and stuff onto him and made him a target. Like, people were coming after him. And so there's a great 20-minute section at the end of this documentary where he sits down with both of them and just lets loose 30 years of pain and anger and all this stuff, and they just set the camera down and they leave the room, the filmmakers, and they're like, you guys have your moment, discuss, and they leave and they just talk and they just leave the camera on, and there's no editing, they just keep it going. There's like 2 cameras that they switch between the guy and the writer, the actor and the writer, and the writer is so disrespectful during the sit down.
Oh, yeah?
The director immediately apologized and was nice about it, and he was like, thank you, I forgive you, like, it's just nice that you apologize, and the writer is like just deflecting everything that this guy is saying. And at one point there was a really disgusting joke that he said in some interview with someone talking about the gay themes of the movie. He said something about concentration camps or something. He somehow compared having AIDS to being a victim in the Holocaust. And the actor was like, you said this, do you feel this way? Because this is very tasteless. And he was like, that's a joke. And he was like, but you said it. And the writer's sitting
it's on
there.
Your mind. It's on your mind. So
yeah. He the actor comes up with a Word document of just quotes and the sources and the date. And you see him through 30 years of him saying all these different things and putting it on the actor. And he shows up and he's like, did you say this? Yes, but that was a joke. And he's just deflecting. And finally he's like, you know what? I'm sorry if you feel any pain or something. And you can just see the actor just go, okay, thank you. And he just stops. He just leaves. He's like, thank you for saying that, whatever. And he's just trying to be nice, trying to be civil. But you can just see him just seething. And so after watching this documentary, because this is a really great documentary, there's a whole lot more going on. That's just kind of the highlights of the timeline that made me want to rewatch it. Because this was a movie I had no care for after watching that documentary.
It's on Shudder, right? It's on
yes.
Shudder? I'm gonna have to watch
it's a Shudder exclusive. It's an hour and a half long. It's a full-length documentary. And these are my favorite types of documentaries, where they focus on one tiny aspect of someone's life or a movie. Best West movie is another great example. The resurgence of this movie that nobody knew about, and it was slowly gaining steam. And it's exactly the same way with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, because now it's being re-evaluated because of this documentary that came out 2-3 years ago in late 2019, early 2020. And so I rewatched it, and yeah, the movie's definitely written as a gay film, and it was not the actor's fault. And the script was written, they literally went to a gay bar. They kind of go into this in the documentary, but the director didn't realize it was a gay bar. He was like, he just typed in bar on Google, like maps, basically. Like he just
the coach is wearing like leather stuff, like leather outfits you'd see at a gay bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you see men kissing, women kissing each other, like, and he literally just looked for the closest bar. So he literally did not realize it was a gay bar when they were filming. They just shot the scene, left, because they were on a budget. And he was like, oh, I didn't realize it. I just wasn't paying attention. And the director was, like, nice about it. He apologized. He was like, wow, I never even thought that this movie was gay, you know. And the writer, like, he wants the credit for doing something that he did do, but 30 years after him laying all the blame and having everyone who's a fan of this series, because nobody likes this movie, really, before this documentary came out, me included. Not because it was gay, but I was kind of like, I like the Dungeons and Dragons, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street. That one's fun. Like, that's
Dream
kind of...
Warriors.
Yeah.
I love that song.
You have an Alice Cooper, like, theme song. I think he did that.
Yeah.
But the second one was just okay, but I rewatched it today, actually. And I was like, holy fuck, like, this is actually a really good movie. And it's so much better. Watch the documentary first, whether you've seen the movie or not. Just watch the documentary first. I hope it comes out on physical media so that I can own it. I
always love the scene where he jumps by the pool and there's the flames behind him, like that.
That shot is just like, that entire movie is just so beautiful. And I'm happy I didn't rewatch it before seeing the documentary, because that was my original plan. Because I've been kind of revisiting Nightmare on Elm Street in preparation for a video. And I was like, like, I need to watch the second one. I heard the documentary was one of the best ever. I'll watch it, and I watched it because I've been watching a movie I own and then watching something on Shudder after. And usually it's a documentary just to switch it up, but sometimes I do watch movies. But this was one I watched yesterday, I believe, and it was like getting me emotional. Like, watching this actor talk about his entire life, from him getting because the documentary opens with him. There's a narration. We don't know if it's from back in the day or if it's now. And he kind of talks about the moment he realized he was gay, which was when he was like 6 years old. And it goes from there to him going to school, having gay friends, but them not really being able to do anything in terms of, like, celebrating their identity. And then they go to, like, him in high school going to drama club or whatever, then him going to, you know, to college and finding, like, a theater group and him doing that for fun. And then doing an agent, and then they talk about the movie. Don't even mention him, really, just kind of talk about the movie. They show a whole lot of reviews which called him the F word and not fucker. They showed so many reviews of, like, on the newspaper. They had a segment where they talked about movies in general in the 80s and how it was just, if you were gay, you were the butt of the joke in movies. And they had a montage that was like 3 minutes long of, like, John Hughes movies, Revenge of the Nerds, and, like, all these different 80s movies where everyone's calling each other the F word. That's not fucker. And he talks about how, and he talks about how after the writer denied writing it as a gay film, that everybody felt, you know, confident and justified in calling him the F word to his face, you know, those few weeks after he said that. And that's why he left, because everyone was just like, oh, wow, they casted an F-word as the main lead. This movie sucks. And there's an awesome bit with Robert Englund, which I keep forgetting to mention, but now that's in my mind. He talks about the scene, the first time that they meet, where he's kind of talking with that character by the stairwell. And he's like touching and caressing the main character's face. And he got permission from the actor because he was like, dude, this is totally a gay film. Let's ramp that shit up. Let's make this the gayest film ever. Like, Robert Englund is hilarious and very, like, sensitive and, like, was really nice to the actor. And they met up again at the end of the documentary. They all come together at this con to do, like, a signing, like, all together for the first time ever. Because the actor was never around. Everyone just didn't
disappeared.
Talk about. Yeah. And Clu Gulager even showed up to the fan signing, like, right before he died. And so they all met together and talked with Robert Englund. And he was like, yeah, we totally knew this, right? And we get a montage of all the actors saying, like, yeah, we knew during the auditions that this was a gay film. And we were so excited for this. Robert Englund talks about how the original idea, instead of caressing his face, he was going to give him oral sex with his finger knife to the actor. Wow. And he agreed to do it. And the makeup artist guy or a producer ran up and was like, don't you fucking do that. Like, just caress his face and make it ambiguous. And they were like, do y'all know what kind of movie we're making? Like, that's what Robert Englund said.
Well, you see it with women in horror films. There's
all the time.
In their mouths or I mean, it shouldn't be a difference no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my entire thing. And I was just seething. And watching that interview at the end was just so angering. And I'm not even involved. I don't know how he didn't get emotional and just fucking punch them.
Yeah.
Because they were sleazy producers. At least the writer was. The director was, like, really chill. It was kind of like, wow, I didn't write the script, the director. Like, it was a totally different guy who wrote it. And just kind of scrapped together a movie and thought it would be funny to have a gay movie. Because to him, he didn't like gay people. Really. Because there's a part in the interview where the actor is just sitting there, like, you know, staring at him as he's just saying all the shitty stuff. And he's like, I know that life must be really tough for you being gay, you know, and all this. And that's a sickness within you. And the actor's like, why are you describing this to me?
Yeah, it's like...
Like, this is awful.
We all have problems. Why does it have to be pointed out like that? You know what I mean?
And is being gay a problem in the first place? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's not a problem.
So
nothing's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And
nothing has to be, I should say difference more than problem. Sorry there. But,
yeah. But yeah, and this was in 2018 that this was filmed. This documentary, like 3 years ago. Like, it shouldn't be an issue anymore. And this director was just contributing, or this writer, I'm sorry. And so, yeah, the documentary is fucking fantastic and made this movie one of my favorites because knowing the whole story really, really helps for this movie.
It was my favorite film for a long time. It has fallen down, but it's still top 5 for me. Easy. I was like, I got Dream Warriors. I jumped on the wagon of Dream Warriors.
Man, that D&D concept is awesome. We have the kid in the wheelchair. He's a fucking wizard, and he's casting fire spells. Man, I love Dream Warriors.
I do. I love the TV scene. Welcome to primetime, bitch. And he throws her in the TV. I'm like, oh my god. I just laugh out loud at that scene.
That movie's awesome. But yeah, I have a newfound appreciation for number 2. I looked on Letterboxd just to make myself depressed, and there's still people kind of going, but there's a lot more 4 stars and 5 stars that I saw than before the documentary came out. So it's catching up, which is wonderful, which is good. But the actor did go back to Mexico, and I think he's done He got what he needed out of his chest.
I got it all out. That's
Yeah,
good.
so
Applaud to him. Applaud to him, man.
it was a really awesome documentary. I was sitting there feeling inspired and all this stuff.
We're all human, man. No matter what we are, we're all human.
Yeah, so that's the last of my controversial behind the scenes. That one's really not controversial. It's more just frustrating how, like, this could have been, like, the first, like, gay major horror film. And after this, you had nothing in the 80s that was anything remotely gay, aside from what you see on Vinegar Syndrome, which is, like, underground stuff, where they couldn't, film it anyway. Sometimes Aunt Martha Does Dreadful Things. That movie is phenomenal. That's like early 70s. John Waters has a commentary track, I think, on that. Might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
That movie's all about transvestitism, transvestites, trans people, and like all this different stuff, and identity. Like that movie's clip cover's still out, so I recommend it. It looks really nice. That's an AGFA, actually, not Vinegar.
Nice.
But now that we are back on the from the bathroom break, I highly recommend watching the documentary first and then the movie, Friday 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, because there's just so much context going on in that movie, and the documentary tells it all. And I want to give a quick shout out to the other Shudder documentary called The Horror Noir, which is all about black representation in horror movies from the 1890s when film began all the way to Get Out. So they talk about Night of the Living Dead. They talk about blaxploitation and kind of how very nuanced it is. Some of those blaxploitation movies are very awful in the representation of black people, and some of them are great, such as the Melvin Van Peebles movies, which aren't even blaxploitation movies. It's not exploitation movies. Those are just great movies. So it's really fascinating. They talk about the civil rights movements, Black Panthers, and how they kind of helped fund a couple film productions because nobody was paying anyone. They talk about Candyman, which was a really interesting one, which I knew nothing about kind of the context around Candyman, but they kind of talked about how kind of, I guess, thematic Candyman the figure is as a, kind of like how the 1990s experience was for black people with, like rap music and kind of the kicking them out of their communities and doing not just redlining, but there's a specific word where they kick them out and they drive prices up so that rich white people can come in and do all that. They talk about that. It's a really great documentary. That one's a kind of shorter. It's like an hour, I think. But they have like Ken Foree on there. They have the guy from
my favorite actor right there, Ken Foree.
Yeah, he's on there, and that's also another like 2018, 2019 documentary. So those are the only two right now that like Shudder exclusive documentaries that I found. I found another Shudder series called Cursed Films, which kind of is like a TV show where each episode is like a separate movie. I watched the first episode, which is all about The Exorcist and about how everybody's like family died. Like anyone who worked on that movie, like not just grandparents died, but like wives and children, people's houses burned down, and like there was so many production like
You see the one with a helicopter? Because I watched that where the helicopter crashes and it kills like cast members on the film set. I forgot what film it was.
Oh yeah,
on Cursed Films.
No, I've just seen the first episode, which was Exorcist.
Oh,
so
you gotta watch the one where the helicopter goes and it's spinning out of control and it crashes and kills several members on the set of the film. I don't remember what film it was, but it's one of the episodes on there on Cursed Films.
Do they spoil like the movies that they're covering? Because they really didn't go into the Exorcist storyline. Like
no,
because I was kind of hesitating on watching them until I see the movies, but If they don't spoil it,
it's more backstage than anything. So
okay, I might go ahead and
yeah,
just binge it, I guess.
yeah,
But I just want to give a shout out to Shudder. They're pretty awesome.
yeah,
I
they are.
I did find a TV show that I'm very interested in, where Elijah Wood, who is a very famous guy, we all love him. He played Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings. He did Come to Daddy, I think that movie, which is like a Jallo kind
He,
of.
he's on the Maniac remake. Watch that.
Yeah, he is too. And
Man, one of his best performances.
I haven't seen that one. He's in I Don't Want to Be in This World. I Don't Want to Be Alone in This World Anymore. That Netflix movie. He is hilarious in that movie. He's like a weird, like, trailer park guy who, like, collects katanas or something, and he goes on this, like, revenge mission for this woman whose forks were stolen that were, like, given to her by her mom. And they find, like, the weirdest people, and they were like, dude, we just sold it for, like, pot money. Like, it's like, who cares about forks? And she's like, God damn it. She gets, like, really angry because she's, like, some, like, middle-class suburban, like, woman. And there's a TV show on Shudder with Elijah Wood that I want to check out, where he sits down because he's the co-owner of one of the partner labels now of a Vinegar Syndrome partner label that he creates, Spectrovision, that's what it's called. And he sits down with filmmakers and just talks. And I'm like, holy shit.
Wow.
I looked at the list that he talks to. He talks to Taika Waititi. He talks to John Carpenter, I think. I really want to watch that show.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I glanced by it when I was flipping through the Shudder channel, I guess. But do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go now with my last film. It's gonna be probably I could consider it a reimagining, but also a classic. And I'm gonna be going with King Kong from 1976, and we spoke about it earlier. So, well, I was hoping I didn't give it away
because I had no idea you watched that. Yeah,
this Creature of the Black Lagoon, and there was a lot of King Kong references. I was like, yeah, I hope I don't give it away. I'm saying something, but yeah, this is a classic from 1976, and it stars Jeff Bridges and you got Jessica Lange.
Ooh.
And it tells I think a great adaptation to the King Kong story, because we've seen it done a few times. I mean, the old one to the recent ones, but
the Peter Jackson.
For some reason, this one stands out to me because it's in the 70s. You know, that I don't give a crap attitude and stuff like that. And you got the hippie era where it's Jeff Bridges is pretty much a hippie in this film, and we got the practical effects from the guy who did American Werewolf in London, so you got some good effects in this film, and also a score by John Barry, because I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, and he did the score for Game of Death.
I didn't know that.
Which is one of my favorite, and he does the music in this, and you could tell it's touched by John Barry. And I mean, it's like I said, it's very 70s like, and you got the rebellion of that era in this film, which is going to be favored in mine because I love that era, 70s, 80s. But it takes the same story. I mean, we have a group of scientists, researchers going to Skull Island, and we got a greedy guy, of course, a greedy rich guy leading the ship who's just after the money. He's trying to get to Skull Island for oil. That's his motive. And you got Jeff Bridges, the rebel hippie who jumps on the ship. He's not even welcomed. And he gets on there, and he's just there for the ride. He wants to do research, so the guy's like, "Yeah, let me hire you. We'll hire you as a photographer." So he's like, "Okay, I'll go with it. I'm here, whatever." And all of a sudden, they meet up with Jessica Lange. She was very young and beautiful at the time. She just floats up in an airboat and they're wondering, well, what happened? She's like traumatized. They help her out. And then you got the typical guys, your typical perverts that want to take advantage of her because she's passed out. And
God.
I give credit to the cruise ship because one of them pulls him around to the side and is like, you know what? No, get out of here. Get out of the room. We're here to take care of her. And he puts the blanket on her because she's like half dressed and all that. And she wakes up and pretty much wants to be part of the adventure. And you got her and Jeff Bridges has the love interest. Of course, he comes as the hero. He's the rebel and whatever. And they get to Skull Island, meet up with a tribe, and you know the story. She's put on the kidnapped and put on the thing for King Kong to take her. But what makes this film different is, like I said, the '70s rebel. You don't give there's some stuff they say out loud, and you're like, what? You wouldn't be able to say that in a film nowadays. And you got an island setting. You got King Kong, who's pretty much awkwardness undressing her. It's kind of like King Kong on an attempted rape scene. I don't know, but it's just real odd. And then you got him actually capturing her, and he's obsessed with her. Of course, that's the Kong story. And she's put down, and you got this like giant python, which I thought was, it's all practical, coming to pretty much take her, and King Kong's her defender. He fights the python. He's wrapped. And then you got this face rip-off where he just rips the python's face off, and you got guts flying. Ooh. And I'm like, that's why I love this era, because it's not, you don't got, I don't have nothing against CGI, but this stuff, the practical effects is some about him. You just got the half mutilated python just ripped apart, King Kong. It's just effects of that time, and it takes it goes from that island setting, which I thought was awesome. It is a set piece where you could tell they're on like a log crossing the mountain. You could tell it's just a set piece, but it's real beautiful. And they get back to your New York setting where you got that scummy New York feel to it in the '70s, and King Kong's captured. He breaks out. You know the story pretty much, but I just loved all of this film. I think it's my favorite King Kong from the franchise, because you got, like I said, the John Barry score and just that awkwardness from the '70s. It's just real odd, and the hippie era, which was crazy. It got the right cast. Like Jeff Bridges kind of gives you that McReady feel for Kurt Russell from The Thing. He has the beard and the long hair, and he's kind of this rebelized guy that's getting away with stuff and slowly adapts to the hero of the film. But for this film being rated PG, like I said, I've said in memes and times that was not PG from the '70s, man. It'll be considered a strong rated R if it was put out today. But I mean, I love the look of King Kong in this film. He's from the fangs to the red eyes to the big old. I mean, you just can't mess with these effects that they had during this time. Some of it is dated, I will admit it. You can tell it's a damn screen when they're going carrying her through. King Kong's carrying her through the jungle.
You see the blue like, on her.
Yeah.
To bring it back to the.
Blue, but overall, this is probably my favorite King Kong film right now. But
have you seen Kong Skull Island?
I have.
That one's my favorite. Yeah. I just love John Goodman. So.
Oh yeah. And this film does notch it up. I mean, the Skull Island notches it up more, but there's something about this film, the feel of it, and I was blown away by it. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, in my opinion. It's King Kong from 1976.
Is that the Scream Factory one?
Yeah, it's the Scream Factory.
Okay. So I almost got that recently, and I thought it was the 1990s one, which I know nobody likes. So,
yeah.
But if it's that good,
the one with Jack Black?
That's the Peter Jackson one. That was after Lord of the Rings.
That's the Peter Jackson.
I think it's fine. It's just really long. People don't like that, so it's whatever.
Yeah. I'm not much of a King Kong fan, to be honest, but this one just blew me away. But I enjoy the films, but I'm not like, I gotta go see this. You know what I mean? It's just, if it comes, I'll watch it. But this really surprised me how good it was. I don't know.
There's a horrible coincidence here about what my next movie is.
Is it? Oh man. Getting close to the boundaries there. What?
Are you ready?
That's pretty much all I gotta say. I'm ready. Yeah.
It's a Godzilla movie. Speaking of Godzilla versus Kong.
Man, we're going in a similar.
Yeah, I didn't know this was gonna happen because I was like, don't look at my letterbox this week.
I stayed off. I didn't look.
Yeah, I saw you didn't log any of the ones you've talked about tonight, so I was pleasantly surprised. But
No, I kept them away. I almost put it on Instagram. I like clicked it
ooh,
and I erased it. Like,
because I rated mine on Letterboxd, but I was just kind of like, don't look, like whatever. If you see it, maybe I'll trick you and make it sound like I didn't use it. But I watched my favorite Godzilla to balance out all the kind of negativity behind the scenes stuff. And I watched Shin Godzilla, which is the remake slash sequel that Toho, I believe, is the studio that made the original Godzilla movies, along with that giant box set by Criterion, which I was tempted to go get and show off, but I hate that packaging. I mention it every time that I mention that set. That packaging is completely unrealistic. It's supposed to be vertical, like against your shelf, so you can see the giant Godzilla. That's like this big, I think, is about its size, and all the discs slide. Yeah, all the discs slide down into the glue, and it fucks up your discs. So I hate it. I hate the packaging. The movies are great, but this is my favorite movie. Is Shin Godzilla? It's 2016, I believe, maybe 2013. I have it written down somewhere. 2013. And just to get it out of the way, the supplements suck on this.
Oh, wow.
This is very much a toolbox movie in terms of technique. They used CGI. They used a guy in a rubber suit. They used just every fucking card in the hand in terms of the effects. And the one supplement they have on this is the marketing people talking about why they love this movie. And I'm like, I don't know you people. Like, who gives a shit what you think? I watched the first 5 minutes of it, and they were like, we're big Godzilla fans, yo. And they had, like, Funko Pops behind them of, like, Godzilla. And I was like, oh, God. They're like one of those, like, podcasts you see on YouTube.
Fanboys.
Like, yeah, it's like, it was exactly them. They called themselves the fanboys. But the supplement is called Godzilla versus the Nerds. And I'm like, who are you people? And they were like, oh yeah, I'm the marketing manager at Funimation, which did the American release of this. And I was like, who gives a shit? I want the director. Where's the actors? Where's the special effects guy? Because I wanted to know how they did all the effects. Because they use every fucking trick in the book.
Oh.
And they don't talk about it at all. So I have to now go delve into the fucking internet to go figure that out after doing this. Because I want to go in as, you know, informed from this release as I could. But this was like the 20th time I've seen this. This movie is so fucking funny. And not on purpose. This movie is just like the original Godzilla. It starts off with a luxury boat getting beached in like Tokyo Bay, and they're like, oh, there's a map here and like radiation like data, and it takes place nowadays. And so you get like a lot of fun sequences with like phone cameras and all this stuff, and a huge geyser goes off while they're on this boat, and it like sweeps the boat away onto land, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's a geyser, there's an underwater volcano. And they're like, no, there's no volcano here. We've done the geological survey and all this stuff. And they're like, okay, go contact, you know, the fucking Navy to see if it's a whale. And they're like, sir, that's not a whale. And they're like, we don't even know if there's a creature in there. And the entire movie is like a commentary on bureaucratic government, because there's no main character in this movie. It's just fly on the wall the entire movie of us watching government meetings, of the prime minister going, like sitting in on meetings, and they have the environmental services guy walk in. Sir, there's radiation everywhere. I think they busted the nuclear plant. And they're like, go call the nuclear plant. And they're like, sir, we have no radiation leaks. It's something else. And they just go through the entire movie. And everyone's titles are slowly changing, and our main character, who is like kind of the connecting tissue, in the beginning of the movie, he's like office assistant or something, like to the prime minister. And at the end of the movie, because every time they show the character of anyone, they have the title, like, and the name. It's like, oh, prime minister, this guy. Director of Environmental Services, this guy. At the end of towards the end of the movie, this assistant, his title is the entire fucking screen. It's like Director of the Environmental Services, looking at it's like, it just goes on, and it slowly grows out the movie. And there's
sounds like a trauma film.
It is so funny, but it's treated completely seriously. And there's a part in the movie where there are many parts where Godzilla keeps evolving, because he starts off as this like weird lizard creature, which has the worst fucking bodysuit that they have, but it's practical, so you kind of hand wave it like, whatever, it's practical. And its eyes never blink, and it's just like walking through the city, just slithering and destroying every building just by walking. And before that happens, it surfaces out of the ocean, and they're like, oh my god, that's a giant tentacle. It's an octopus, oh my god. And they're like, don't kill it. Don't kill the octopus. It hasn't done anything. It's flooding the city, but it hasn't done malicious intent on us. And they're like, and they go in a press conference. The prime minister's like, don't worry, guys. Everything's under control. It cannot go onto land. It cannot walk. And then the next scene, and an intern is looking at their phone. They're like, sir, the creature just walked onto land. And you see Godzilla just stomping through. And it's treated completely seriously. It's so funny.
Man.
And there's so many scenes of them, in the first half, where they're sitting there and they're like, what do we need to do? We should probably not nuke it. Can we call the U.S. to come in? And they're like, sir, that is a public relations issue. Go to boardroom 2A to discuss this with the board. And they're like, okay, and they get up and they go to the other building. There's one different person in there. And they're like, sir, okay, this is a marketing issue. We need to go do a press conference. Okay, we go to the press conference. There's no issues. It will not walk on land. And they're like, and then the aide one's on stage and it's like, sir, it just walked onto land. And then he's like, oh, fuck, I just told national TV that it can't do this, and now I'm a liar. Oh, my God, I'm awful. And it's like, okay, back to the planning room. They go back, and they're like, sir, animals' rights protesters have showed up to our offices and saying not to kill it. And the U.S. has also called and said don't kill it because they want to study it and maybe weaponize it. All this different stuff, and it's a 2-hour movie. Wow. It's a pretty long movie. And it's actually really funny and just really insightful, because it really showed, it's a commentary on, bureaucracy and kind of the crazy, not crazy, but the really in-depth hierarchy that Japanese, government has, where you do not go straight to the boss. You talk to one guy, then he goes talk to another, then he goes until the top. And there's a scene where they're about to shoot at Godzilla early in the movie with helicopters, and an elderly couple is crossing the railroad station that's half a mile away from Godzilla, and they're like, sir, civilians, do we shoot? And it goes to the general who is on the radio. He's like, hold on, let me ask my higher up. And he goes, and it's the captain. He's like, okay, let me call the whoever. And they go a 6-person chain to the prime minister. And he's like, don't shoot. And then he hangs up the phone. He goes all the way back to this one guy at the helicopter, gun seat. It's so funny. The whole movie is like that, of them just going to one thing after another. And Godzilla keeps evolving into a more dangerous thing, to the point where he does his atomic breath and just wipes out the whole city. And they're like, sir, what do we do now? And it's just insanity the entire way. It is so fun.
Sounds crazy. It's like the mafia. You got to go to the capo, the assistant. You got to go.
Yeah.
It keeps going on until you get, okay, here's the assistant mob boss.
And there's a part in this movie where they finally get a scientific team together, like just all the smart minds in Japan, all the scholars, all the scientists, and all this stuff, and they're like, we're no longer doing the hierarchy. Everyone's equal here. Like we are dissembling like this entire structure. This because it's not working.
Like it's like what would really happen? Something like that really happened?
Yeah, that's definitely what they're going for, is if Godzilla really came. And this happened right after the nuclear reactor went off in Fukushima, I think.
Yeah.
In like 2012 or 2011. So, yeah, they were inspired when they made this movie. They had a lot to say. The supplements, there are none. Even that really shitty one, it's a shame. I hope it gets re-released. They printed like 40 million copies of this, so you can still find it really cheap. It's highly worth it. It's my favorite Godzilla because it's so realistic and so funny. Like the first time I watched this, I was like, what the fuck is going on? What am I watching? I was like, this is so boring. Like, 'cause I watched it like 2016 and then I watched it again and I was like, okay, this is kind of funny, because I kind of started hearing that everyone was like, oh my god, this funniest movie ever. And I watched it the other day, and I was like, just laughing my head off the entire way. Sir, what do we... It cannot walk on land. Don't worry, citizens. An aide walks in. And that's like the first 5 minutes. Like, it's so funny. And none of it is like winking at the audience. It's all like played completely straight. The entire movie.
It will not blow fire. Everyone stand there. They get burned.
There's some... It's the biggest Godzilla in any movie. I will say that. It is massive. And the first time it shows up, it's massive. And they're like, it cannot grow anymore. And by the end of the movie, they're like, it's quadruple the size since we first saw it. What do we do?
What do we do? Run.
Call the U.S. Oh my god, they're trying to capture it instead of just killing it. Okay, we got to handle it ourselves.
That's what they really do.
Yeah.
Let's experiment on it. Who cares if it crushes our whole crew? Let's just see what it's about.
Yeah, and there was a really funny, like, 2-second scene where we see a big crowd of protesters outside the government, and they're like, sir, what do we do? And it's like, oh, just don't do anything. They'll leave. And they all just get wiped out by Godzilla.
Oh, man.
That movie is phenomenal. It gets better with every rewatch because there's so many little details. Like, I just noticed that long title of our main character, like, this watch. Like, I never noticed that. Because in the beginning, it is literally just, like, office assistant. Like, by the end of the movie, he's the director of everything because everyone's dead.
Let's go all the way to the maintenance guy, all the way up.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then
they look for that one. I've never seen it.
Yeah, and then they hire the like head of agriculture to become like the new prime minister, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And everyone is like, "Sir, don't bomb it. It'll aggravate it. Don't do that." And he's like, "When are we eating lunch?" It is so funny. Oh my god. I just want to rewatch it now.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's exactly 2 hours long, so, and it's worth every minute. How they resolve the issue is very smart. It's a whole lot better than them just waiting until he goes into the ocean. It does not end like that. Every movie ends like that, of him going by humans and just goes into the ocean.
He's at peace.
The way somehow. They do, yeah. He hit his level 5 or whatever of destruction. But in this movie, they actually slowly make a plan and they execute it, and it's successful. It's really smart. It's a total clusterfuck in the beginning how they do anything, but by the end they have the smart people still around to kind of figure it out.
At least, man. Godzilla is actually my favorite from there, so I need to see that.
Yeah, I still haven't finished the Criterion box set. I thought about doing one of those, but I was like, nah, I love this one. I know I can go on all day on that.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Sounds like a one that add to my watch list there for sure.
It's probably on Netflix. I think that's how I saw it first time. And then I got it, and I just kept rewatching, and now it's one of my favorites. I may have the digital copy. I don't know if it's been used, but when does it expire?
That's the question.
I mean, it came out in 2016. This release, at least.
It's a more recent film.
Yeah, this was around the time when the really shitty American one came out. I kind of hate the new ones, except for Kong Skull Island, of course. But the other ones are just really generic. But this one came out in response of that really awful 2014 one with Bryan Cranston, where they killed him off in like the first 5 minutes. One of the greatest actors ever from Breaking Bad and Malcolm in the Middle. They just killed him off and had boring white military man character be the protagonist for the rest of the movie. He's got to go save the kids in this island. He's the only American here. Because no one will watch this movie if we cast an all-Japanese cast. And it's like, So after they saw that movie, they were like, we're going to buy the rights again and just try to make it much better. And it is a whole lot better. It's a perfect movie, in my opinion.
Nice.
It's kind of like Tremors.
I did enjoy Godzilla. What's that one? King of Monsters or...
Yeah, that one was very fan servicey, and I loved it when I was watching that.
I enjoyed that one.
I didn't watch that movie sober because I was kind of like, okay, I hated 2014. I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah.
Like hammered, and I was, and I loved it.
I liked it.
I haven't watched it since, and I won't because I don't want to destroy my good feelings towards it.
Yeah.
But I did see Godzilla versus Kong, or Kong versus Godzilla. That one was bad. I have a whole review actually, so.
I liked it for the fights, but other than that.
I like the ocean fight when Kong is jumping on all the boats and stuff. That was really the only fight I liked. It was so nonsensical, though, at times. So, yeah, that was our episode. That was a total coincidence that we ended on, like, a rivalry Kong versus Godzilla. I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, my God, like...
Yeah.
We were on the same... Because when you said, Creature from the Black Lagoon, I was like, oh, that's similar. I mean, Godzilla is from that era. And then you said Kong, and I was like, oh my God. I just kind of burst out laughing.
I hope I'm not giving it away, man. I'm giving my movie away.
And that's why I was like, maybe you think I also did that movie, but I didn't. But I don't know. It was like Godzilla versus Kong, so...
Interesting.
I thought I wrote it down on my phone. I don't have a pen near me. Yeah, I'll just get up. I won't throw anything to try and get it. Okay. So we did classic monsters. We have final directors, which was kind of like final films was my idea. I don't really have many movies that factor into that. Female-led action, sleaze and gore, Donald Pleasance featured, shitty remakes, trauma movies. That would be fun. Revenge films.
Yeah, I would.
I already have one down from back in September when we started that.
Man, had that long-ass delay.
Because of
holidays, man. Holidays.
All that, yeah. Home invasion, westerns,
interesting,
non-franchise slashers, and dystopian films. It says 12. Oh, wait, never mind. It says 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that was number 12. So we have 11 options.
Just roll it, or do it that random pick.
Out of 11. Okay. Dice roller. Wait. So we're just gonna roll a 12-sided die. And if I hit 4, which was classic monsters, I'll just say no.
Just say no to sleaze.
Say no to
No,
sleaze.
actually say yeah.
Okay, well, 1 time. Unless we want to do 3 and just average it. I don't know. Now we'll just do 1. Okay. Go. I got 1. So final directors now. I don't want to do that. Reroll. Number 12. Dystopian films. That sounds more fun.
Yeah, I got a lot of those. So.
I don't know how many
That
I
I haven't
have.
seen.
I would have to re-evaluate to see how many I have. I may have to rely on Shudder.
Hey, that's a weapon there. That's a tool.
Oh, yeah.
6-string samurai, man. 6-string samurai. Let's put it.
Yeah, that is definitely one of them. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so dystopian films is our next theme. I'll probably just send something out. I don't know how many people watch till the end on these, but that's our next theme. I'm excited.
They gotta be drunk, like us. Well, so they could get in our same mind frame.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. Do all that. Whatever. My French sex murders is my main fucking thing at this point.
Oh, man.
I have over 2,500 views now. It's almost at 26. So it's kind of insanity. So yeah. Thank you for joining with me, Leon. It's fun as always.
Thank you, Christian, for having me. It's a blast. And I look forward to the future chat here
Oh, yeah.
of cinema trash or whatever we talk about.